Joining us today for Tourism Ireland's presentation of Dublin and Beyond. I would like to thank you for your patience. Once again, my name is Tabitha and I am your moderator today. If you have any technical difficulties or any questions, please feel free to put those in the chat box to the right-hand side of your screen, and the moderator will be happy to assist you. Once again, if you have any sound difficulties, please make a note of those in the chat box and a moderator will be happy to assist you. With us today, we have Louise from Tourism Ireland, Fiona from Guinness Storehouse, Neve from GAA Museum in Croke Park, and Michelle from Discover Boyne Valley. Now, we will be doing a short question and answer period after every presentation, so if you have any questions, please make a note of them and save them for the presenter in question. Once again, we'd like to thank you for joining us today for our Tourism Ireland presentation, and with that in mind, we will be starting. So thank you, and please pay attention, and we look forward to hearing from our fantastic presenters today. All right, so with us today we have Louise. I'll be passing the phone along to her. Thank you, everybody.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks very much for joining us. You're all very welcome from Canada and Ireland. My name's Louise. I'm from Tourism Ireland. I'm going to give you a quick overview of Dublin and Beyond. Today with us, as Tabitha introduced, we have Fiona from Guinness Storehouse, we have Neve from the GAA Museum, and Michelle from Discover Boyne Valley, all in very close reach to Dublin city centre. So today we're just going to look at what's so great about Dublin. Obviously one of the most important things to remember is the direct access from Toronto. It's only 6.5 hours on a direct flight. We have two main carriers that travel year-round. That's Air Canada Rouge and our national carrier Aer Lingus. We also have Air Transit and WestJet doing seasonal flights. Another thing to remember, Dublin, the capital city of Ireland, what has it got to offer? Rich in heritage and culture. You can also avail of free museums and art galleries throughout the city. It's great for shopping, and it has wonderful food markets and restaurants to choose from. Another great thing to remember, you don't need a car to get around the city. It's very accessible by foot. It's got great public transport in and out of the city by bus and by train. If you can see the top right-hand corner, the picture of the people just there climbing up the hill, that's Killiney. That's about a 30-minute train ride just outside of Dublin city centre. So there's really no need for a car at all. It's very easy to walk around. It's a very easy city to get around by car or by bus or by train. Just to have a little look here, Dublin's doorstep, just some areas outside of the city centre. There's two links there just to touring routes. So that would be areas and attractions close to the city centre within an hour or two drive. One of the areas we're going to look at really quickly is Kilkenny City. It was voted among Europe's most friendliest city, and it is home to Kilkenny Castle. It's only 1 hour and 30-minute drive outside Dublin city centre, so it's very rich in heritage and culture. The next area we're going to look at very quickly is Wicklow. That's just south of Dublin. It's where I am from. It's a 35-minute drive just outside of Dublin city centre, or you can take the train. It's along the coast. It's very beautiful. It's home to very many houses and gardens. There's a waterfall. It's also home to Glendalough and Avoca. So that's enough from me. I'm going to pass you on to Fiona from Guinness Storehouse. And if you have any questions, please let us know.
All right, so we'll now be introducing Fiona from Guinness Storehouse. Fiona, please feel free to take it away.
Hello everyone, greetings from the home of Guinness in Dublin. Thanks for this opportunity. Just have a very short presentation on the storehouse just to bring you up to date. It's an overview, and it'll also give you a little bit of insight of what's inside the storehouse and also how to plan your next visit to the storehouse as well. Can you increase the presentation? I can't actually see it here on my screen.
Sorry?
Oh. Yeah, sorry, I'm just gonna, yeah, thank you. Yeah, so So Guinness Storehouse is the home of Ireland's famous iconic drink. It's the top tourist attraction in Ireland. It's the #1 drinks experience in the world, and we actually have almost 1.3 million visitors last year. So a busy attraction. We actually had about 37 Canadian visitors that visited Guinness Storehouse last year, and that was a big increase, around 27% on the previous year. So where we are, we're located at St James's Gate, and all the Guinness that you purchase in Canada actually comes from St James's Gate. It's brewed here, right at St James's Gate. So we're right in the centre of the Guinness Brewery, and we're approximately 20 minutes walk from the city centre. It's a really old, historic part of the city. It's actually, it was once called a city within a city. You can see the old railway tracks here. And the Guinness Storehouse is actually housed in an old fermentation plant. You'll see it in the photograph on the left-hand side. It's a listed building. It was built around 1902 as a fermentation plant. It closed in the late 80s and was remodeled as the visitor experience that you see today back in 2000. So we're celebrating our 15th anniversary this year. And I'm sure you all know the history of Guinness. Arthur Guinness signed a lease on an old brewery back in 1759. He paid £100 for that lease, and it was for 9,000 years. So the rest is brewing history. 150 countries all around the world Guinness is sold. So this is inside the building. The building itself is it's a beautiful building. It's steel framed, and the centre of the building is shaped around a giant pint glass atrium. And the best way to describe Guinness Storehouse is like a journey through Guinness. And the journey unfolds over 7 floors. So you learn about the history, the brewing process, the ingredients, just a few images here. Sorry, there seems to be a problem with the, yeah, okay, sorry. Yeah. So these are our tasting rooms, and the tasting rooms is, we actually developed these 2 years ago, and these are located on the 2nd floor. And the tasting rooms is a multi-sensory experience, around your first taste of Guinness from Guinness Storehouse, so a really unique experience. We have audio tours. The whole exhibition is actually in English, so for our English visitors, there's no need for an audio tour, but we do offer them French for the French-speaking Canadians. Gravity Bar. Gravity Bar is actually where all of our visitors finish their visit to Guinness Storehouse, and it's the highest viewing point in Dublin City, and it's got panoramic views over the whole of the area, 360 degrees, unparalleled views over the city, from the coast to the Dublin mountains, which you see in the background here. It's where all of our visitors receive their complimentary pint of Guinness, and it's freshly brewed from the Guinness brewery. We have a large retail store. It's actually the largest range of Guinness branded merchandise that you get anywhere in the world. And a large part of the range is actually exclusive to the Storehouse, so you don't get anywhere else. And the beauty for pre-booked groups and FITs is that you get 10% off any purchases in the retail store. And Canadian visitors can also get a further savings through tax-free shopping. So the saving can be quite significant. We also do special services like engraving and embroidery as well. So if you want to embroider a t-shirt or a baseball cap, bring that special personalized souvenir home, that's also possible. On the 5th floor, on level 5, we have a whole floor dedicated to Guinness and food. We have 2 restaurants and Arthur's Bar. In Arthur's Bar we have live music during the weekends. I just wanted to talk about some of the more exclusive experiences that are available at Guinness Storehouse. Um, so pre-book groups over 15 people actually get a complimentary guided tour. For under 15 people, you can also avail of a guided tour. There is an extra charge, but this is an enhanced experience at the storehouse. In Ireland, we like to say that we all know that Guinness is a very distinctive looking drink. And we like to say that there's a special craft involved in pouring the perfect pint of Guinness. And there's no better place to do it than at Guinness Storehouse. This is our Guinness Academy. And the visitors go behind the bar and they learn the 6 steps involved in pouring the perfect pint of Guinness. And for their efforts, they also get a personalised certificate. And we have iPads outside of this bar where they can share their photographs and their experience with friends and family. So it's a nice, fun, interactive experience. This bar, the Guinness Connoisseur Experience, is our special hidden bar. And the best way to describe this is as the ultimate Guinness tasting experience. So it's here where you'll meet a specially trained Guinness connoisseur, and you do a special tasting session of the 4 most popular Guinness variants that are sold globally. And you learn about the history of the variant, the pouring ritual, the food pairing with that variant, and of course you also get to taste the variant as well. So this is the most exclusive experience. This is available privately, or we also run sessions daily at 12 o'clock, 2 o'clock and 4 o'clock. And we also offer special travel trade rates for this experience, for pre-booking this experience. It's a really unique, like I said, the ultimate Guinness tasting experience. And the only place that you can do this in the world is at Guinness Storehouse. We also have lunches, private lunch arrangements at the storehouse, or a shared lunch experience. And the storehouse also in the evening is unique space for corporate functions and events, and you can hire the whole building or various floors of the building. And that's me. That's all I wanted to say. Also, we spoke there briefly about Kilkenny, and I'm Business Development Manager for the Smithwick's Experience at Kilkenny. It's Ireland's newest visitor attraction. It opened in August of last year, and it's a unique insight into 300 years of brewing history in Kilkenny. So many thanks, and any questions?
All right, so do we have any questions for Fiona at the moment? Please feel free to write those in chat box 3 or chat box, and the moderator will read them out loud for you. All right, so it seems as though Fiona's presentation went very well, so we'll transfer it along now.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, we're going to be transferring over to Neve at Croke Park. We'll transfer it over to you now, Neve, so feel free to start whenever you're ready.
Okay, thanks very much. Hi everyone, my name is Neve and I'm the director here in the Gaelic Athletic Association Museum that's in Croke Park Stadium in Dublin. So I'm delighted to have the opportunity to talk to you all today. So just to give you a bit of background in case you haven't heard of Croke Park or the Gaelic Athletic Association, I'd just like to give you a bit of context around that. So the Gaelic Athletic Association was established over 130 years ago in Ireland, and it was established to manage our national sports, and our 2 main national sports that are unique to Ireland are called hurling and Gaelic football. So they're very special sports in Ireland, they're unique to Ireland, and they're part of our heritage. They are amateur sports, which means our elite sportsmen, they play the games like professionals, but they work Monday to Friday 9 to 5. And in Ireland, there's over 1 million members of the Gaelic Athletic Association. So it's very vibrant in Ireland, and also at the moment, we have a lot of clubs, GA clubs overseas. So Irish people who've moved abroad are still very involved with the association and our sports. So Croke Park is a stadium in Dublin, and it's the home of the Gaelic Athletic Association. It's located about 1 kilometre from Dublin city centre, which is about a 15-minute walk. It's also about 15 minutes from Dublin Airport, and we're accessible on the city sightseeing hop-on, hop-off bus tour route. So visitors to Croke Park, they can experience 3 different activities. There's something for everyone here. So I suppose first and foremost, it's a big stadium, so we have a stadium tour. Secondly, we have a rooftop tour that I'll go into detail later. And thirdly, we have we have a museum, and it also has an interactive games area where you can experience the games of hurling and Gaelic football for yourself. So just to go on, everyone who lives in Ireland knows Croke Park. They know the venue. It's iconic here in Ireland. So on screen, there's just an image of Croke Park on a match day. There's about 82,000 people in the stadium in that image. It's the 3rd largest stadium in Europe. So every year we've got 60 match days here. So 60 games of hurling and football. And each year we welcome 1.3 million people to our games. We also have other events here. For example, we have concerts. Some of the famous acts that have performed here include U2, Celine Dion, Garth Brooks and Elton John. Last year, I'm sure you've all heard of One Direction. One Direction were here for 3 nights and they played to 250,000 people. So that was a really big thing in Dublin last summer. And we also had an American football match. So we had a college football game. It was Penn State and the University of Florida. So as well as our own games, we host other big events here too. So Croke Park is firmly on the map in Ireland as a centre for events. So just to give you a bit of background about our games, if I just move on to the next slide, our 2 main games are hurling and football. I'd like to explain hurling in particular to you. It's a very special sport. It has survived over hundreds of years in Ireland, and in fact it thrives now in Ireland. To explain it, it's a bit of a 3-way between field hockey, lacrosse and baseball, and it's continuous action and the ball is always on the move. So the image on screen now depicts hurling. It's the fastest field sport in the world and it's highly skilled. There's 15 players in a team and the matches last 70 minutes. The sport dates back to approximately the 12th century, and in fact in the museum here we have a ball that's used in the games that dates back to the 12th century. So to explain football, our other sport, again it's unique to Ireland. It's a little like football and the ball can be passed using your hand or your foot. So throughout Ireland there's players of all ages who are either involved in playing the games or managing the games. So here in the GA Museum and in Croke Park Stadium we celebrate the games. So if you visit Croke Park, you can go on a stadium tour, and all our tours are guided. So it allows the visitor to go behind the scenes and enjoy essentially a backstage tour of the stadium. It's the 3rd largest, as I said, in Europe, and it's second only to Barcelona's Nou Camp and Wembley Stadium in London. And it sits on a 16-acre site, so it's very big. You'll spot it when you're in the city. You can't really miss it. So on the tour of the stadium, you will learn about our games. You'll also learn about the history of the stadium because it's been here for over 100 years. And you will also learn the role that the Gaelic Athletic Association has had in the contribution and development of modern Ireland over the last 100 years. Within the museum, it's the home of all the Gaelic Athletic Association's artefacts. So we have some very special pieces there. And we have areas that celebrate our games and I suppose players that have been iconic throughout the years. In the museum there's also a section that's very popular. It's our interactive games area. So in this space you can try your hand at hurling or at football, and it's just for fun and it's just to learn a couple of skills of the games. There's 8 different interactive games that you can try. And they're not just for younger visitors. Even though the images depict children, it's usually the adults who we have to drag out of the games because they enjoy it so much. but it's just an opportunity to just test your own skill and see what you think of our sports. Then the next activity that you can do when you come to Croke Park is entirely different. It's a new addition to Croke Park since 2012, and it's essentially a rooftop walkway. It's called the Etihad Skyline. So if you're looking for an exciting activity that is adrenaline fueled, this is perfect. It's something different that you can do when you come to Dublin. So a walkway was constructed in the middle of the roof, and it brings you right the way around the stadium. So you are outside in the elements, 17 stories high, and you can enjoy a 360-degree view of Dublin City. On the walkway, there are 5 viewing platforms, and each has a different aspect of the city. There are audio guides available that do have French, and it helps you pick out the famous landmarks in Dublin City from this bird's eye viewpoint, and you are given a short piece of history on each landmark that you can see. Or if you don't want to use the audio guide, you can listen to your tour guide. Sometimes they have the more entertaining stories on offer. It's a wow factor, this tour, and there's a special piece of the walkway that is suspended right over the pitch. It's only for the brave, but it's a great spot to get a picture. So when you do the Skyline tour, you can also make a visit to the museum, and you can look at the games as well if you wish. But this is something different. It's a tour that's not necessarily sports related. It just gives you a fantastic opportunity to see Dublin from a new and different perspective, from a very high viewpoint. I'm just going to flick on to the next slide, and you will see a picture that one of our tour guides took from the rooftop walkway of Dublin City Centre. So there's different landmarks that you can see, and in the backdrop is the Dublin Mountains. So when you're on the skyline, your audio guide will tell you which landmarks to pick out, and they will tell you about them. Then just to give you a short piece about Canada and the GAA, there are GAA clubs, so our sporting clubs are throughout the world, but it's always been very strong in Canada. They started there in the early 1800s when Irish immigrants made their way to Canada. And in fact, on my desk here, I have a book that's about the history of Gaelic games in Canada. So there's even a whole book about it. So you can look and see that there's about 18 clubs within Canada, including all the major cities over there: Calgary, Montreal, Ottawa, Toronto, Vancouver. And participation rates are very high. On the Canadian Gaelic Games website, it's noted that many argue with conviction and no small amount of fact to support their case that Canada's national sport, ice hockey, has its origins in hurling. The word puck is derived from the Irish word puck, which is spelled P-O-C, which is the action of striking the ball with a hurling stick. So there's a strong connection between Ireland and Canada in sporting terms. So indeed, when you come to the museum, you can see on one of our displays the link between the two countries and the sports. So that might be of some interest to Canadian visitors when they're here. So I can tell you how great Croke Park is and that it's a must-see in Dublin, but I'll just give you some independent traveller and visitor feedback just to back me up or to validate that. So last September, the National Geographic did include Croke Park as one of the top 10 things to do if you were to visit the island of Ireland. So, you know, we were delighted to feature there. Also, at the moment on TripAdvisor, we're the #1 attraction in Dublin, and that's based on 1,000 reviews almost. And what's lovely to see in those reviews that our tour guides always get name checked and they always get singled out for praise. We think we have the best team of tour guides in Dublin. And then finally, Flipkey rated our museum as one of the top 40 to see between Ireland and the UK. So it's always great for us to get that independent validation and feedback. You know, we believe we have something for people to enjoy, but it's great that other people can validate that for us too. And then finally, just to illustrate some famous people who've been here and just, you know, how much a national treasure Croke Park is, it's important to include in itineraries of traveling visitors from overseas. So the Premier of China, Xi Jinping, was here, and he tried his hand at hurling, you can see in the picture. Her Royal Highness Queen Elizabeth, when she visited Dublin in 2011, she paid a trip to the stadium. And then while President Obama didn't visit here, he did try his hand at hurling also, and he's in that picture too. So it's a must-see for VIPs when they come to Ireland or come to Dublin. Finally, just our tour rates are here. You can view them later if you wish, but the rates are competitive for groups, and you know, it is worthwhile doing. The visit that you would have here in Croke Park would be 2 hours to 3 hours, and so it's excellent value. So just to sum up, I'd just like to thank you all for your time. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you today, and I look forward to welcoming you and your customers here to Croke Park sometime in the future.
And we'd like to thank Niamh for joining us today. Now we will be welcoming Michelle from Boyne Valley to do her presentation. So Michelle, you're ready whenever you are.
Okay. Good evening to everyone. Well, good evening from here in the Boyne Valley. My name is Michelle Whelan. I'm the tourism officer for this area. It's the Boyne Valley covers 2 counties, Counties Meath and South Louth, County Louth, and we came together about 3 years ago to promote the area as the Boyne Valley destination, and we've been working with Fulge Ireland on that. So I'll give you an overview of the Boyne Valley, and hopefully you will come and visit sometime soon. Okay, so in this slide, the first slide here, just to show you the location, we're very close to Dublin city centre and to Dublin Airport. It's just 20 minutes from Dublin Airport to Ashburn in the south of County Meath in the Boyne Valley. It's also only about 20 to 30 minutes from the city centre, so if you're visiting Guinness Storehouse or Croke Park, it's not a long way off to come out to the Boyne Valley and experience the rich heritage of this area. We have 4 motorways going through it. I just thought I'd mention that, M1, 2, 3 and 4, so it's very accessible. We often encourage groups to come maybe on their first night when they arrive in Ireland to experience the kind of rural Ireland, or on their way back to the airport because you can avoid the traffic. We developed a Boyne Valley driving route. It's 225 kilometres and it links all of the heritage sites. It's quite a small area, but there's a huge abundance of heritage and rich history in this area. And one person, a Lonely Planet writer, Fiona Davenport, actually called it the birthplace of Irish history. So you can learn everything from medieval history right through to more recent history about Ireland in this area. So I'll just run through some of the heritage sites just to give you a flavour of it. The Battle of the Boyne and Newgrange or Brunabonia are some of the more well-known sites in this area. The Battle of the Boyne is located on the battlefield where the historic 1690 battle was fought between King James and King William. And obviously a lot of people will know about the history of that because it caused a lot of the troubles in the north since. And the visitor centre was opened a few years ago by the First Minister of Northern Ireland, Ian Paisley, along with the Prime Minister of Ireland, Bertie Ahern. So your groups will be able to see the battlefields and learn about the history of that actual battle. It's also nice for walks. There's a lovely new walled garden there, and there's tea pavilions. Newgrange and Louth are part of Brunabonia, which is a World Heritage Site, and this is a 5,000-year-old tomb. It's older than the pyramids of Egypt. This site is a really brilliant day out. It has really good guides. You can go right into the tomb and see where on the 21st of December each year, the winter solstice, the light shines through the chamber and lights up the tomb, and it could have been where the High Kings would have been buried. Then I'll just move on to Trim Castle. It's the largest Anglo-Norman castle in Europe, and it's practically intact. The image on the presentation shows canoes, so you can actually go canoeing around it if you want, or you can just simply get a tour right up to the top and get lovely views over the area. The town of Trim is a lovely historic town, and there's nice walks around the area and plenty of things to do. Um, then beneath that, actually just to mention that it starred in Braveheart with Mel Gibson, so that's the claim to fame for that area. Old Melfont Abbey then is below that. It's an abbey that was founded in 1142, and the picture you see there is of the lavabo where the monks would have washed their hands before prayer. So that's a really nice site, and has guided tours during the summer months. Monaster Boyce, that's the high cross that you can see there. It's one of the finest high crosses in Ireland, and the local community give guided tours of the Monaster Boyce, so it's very authentic. The cross depicts scenes from the Bible, so there's lots of good stories that the local guides will give. Kells also has high crosses, and the monastic site at Kells is practically intact, so you can take a tour around there, and the tourist office in the town will organise that for you free of charge. It's also famous for the Book of Kells, which is located now at Trinity College, and you can see a picture of that there. Drogheda is a very nice heritage town, and there's lots to see and do there. There's Millmount Museum. You can see the top picture. It's the Martello Tower, and there is a military museum within the tower, and it also affords great views over the town. So you can take a tour of that. There's also a nice crafts area where there's weavers and various craft workers who are working away there, and you can get a tour of the museum itself, which has lots of old artifacts from the area. And this tower would have been built back around the 12th century to protect the town. You can also do walking tours of Drogheda Heritage Town, which would take in St. Peter's Church in Drogheda, where they have a shrine to St. Oliver Plunkett, and a lot of people are quite fascinated with this. So you can actually see St. Oliver Plunkett's head. Highlands Gallery is below that. It's the municipal art collection is there, but it also has the sword and mace, which were given to the town by King William after the Battle of the Boyne. And that site, they're free sites. Also to mention Loughcrew Cairns, picture seems to have disappeared there, but Loughcrew is quite similar to Newgrange. It's a megalithic tomb, 5,000 years old, and it's quite authentic because it hasn't been excavated in the way Newgrange has. You climb up the side of a hill and you get a key and you can go in yourself, or during the summer months there's guides there. Then the Hill of Tara is quite well known. It's where the High Kings would have ruled Ireland from, and there's guided tours from May to September there. So it's a fort, and the kings would have lived there back many times years ago. So that's a really nice mystical kind of site to visit as well. Just to mention as well that we have many historic houses and gardens. Bewley House is the top two images, and they have a historic house there, a 17th century historic house, which has been passed through the female line, and you can take a guided tour of there and of the gardens. And the third image is of Loughcrew Historic Gardens, and they also have an adventure centre, and that's near the Loughcrew cairns. And just to mention also any other visits if you're more interested in kind of experiencing something a bit different. Slane Castle, which is famous for its rock concerts, they also do whiskey tasting tours, and will be opening up their new distillery in the next year. So you can do a tour of the castle, which can be given by Lord Henry Mountcharles or Alec Mountcharles, and they'll also do whiskey tasting as well. Cozy Farm is very popular. It's the Irish for a day where you learn to make brown bread. You can jump in bog holes. You can learn how to play the barrow. There's lots of Irish activities that that groups will be interested in doing, and you're guaranteed a great day out. There's also cookery classes with Fairyhouse Cookery School. Then you see the top image is Culture Tourism Ireland. They do be an archaeologist for a day where you learn how to dig and do an actual dig in a real heritage site. It's called the Black Friary and it's based in Trim, and you may find some bones or some old pottery. And then there's also food camps if you want to do arts and crafts or photography. We've many festivals and events. There's music festivals, arts festivals, lots of different kind of festivals, traditional haymaking festivals as well. So there's plenty of things for your groups to do, and that's really my presentation, but it's a snapshot of a lovely area which has a lot of heritage, and it's a very small area to get around, so it's very easy to get around. So if you want to get out of the city for a few days, this presents another option for you. And if you want any more information on the various sites or rates or anything, just drop me a line. Thanks very much.
Fantastic, and thank you, Michelle. Now, we do have some time for questions, so if anybody does have any questions for Louise, Fiona, Neve, or Michelle, please feel free to write those in the chat box now, and we'll address them. Okay. And I do see that Rose is typing, so we'll wait for her. Oh, and thank you for joining us today, Rose. Now, once again, this is the last call for questions, so if you do have any questions for Louise, Fiona, Neve, or Michelle, please feel free to write them now. If not, I will be sending out their presentations a little bit later today or early tomorrow, along with a webinar recording for your convenience. Oh, I am seeing that we're getting a text from Lois. So once again, we will be sending the, oh, and she would like to ask, is Croke Stadium only available to groups? So I'll transfer it over.
No, individuals can come along. We have scheduled public tours every day of the year, bar Christmas Day and St. Stephen's Day. So we're open Monday to Sunday, and we've scheduled public tours for the stadium and for the rooftop tour every day.
Fantastic, thank you. And do we have any additional questions? All right, well, with no further questions, then we will be wrapping up for today. And we'd like to thank you all for joining us. And once again, I will be sending out the presenters' information. So if you have any questions that don't occur to you at the moment, please feel free to send them a line. I'm sure they'd love to hear from you. And once again, we will be sending out a recording of today's webinar shortly. And we look forward to seeing you join us a little bit later in the month for Tourism Ireland's Belfast and Beyond webinar. Thanks again for joining us, and we hope you have a lovely afternoon. And we'd like to express a warm thank you to Louise, Fiona, Neve, and Michelle for joining us today. Thanks again, and have a lovely afternoon.